What's happening, guys? I hope it's better to find everybody well. Today on the Built for Pressure podcast, what I'm going to be going over is your journey feeling hard and heavy. As a business owner, somebody who values their performance, someone who's leading other people, I know behind closed doors a lot of the time, sometimes it feels like you're pushing a rock uphill. And what I'm going to do today is break down the barriers that you have and show you that actually in the hard work and how to find hard work in a more smooth way, it's actually going to give you the keys back to the car rather than feeling like you're in the passenger seat. You actually feel like you're in the driving seat. Now, when it comes down to growth and when it comes down to you evolving, whether it's from a personal standpoint, whether it's from a professional standpoint, or even from a physical standpoint of you becoming the version that you said that you would, most of the time people, especially in a day and age, currently what I'm saying in this is 2024, is people are shying away from hard work and thinking that it's not about hard work and there's a cheat code. But they'll get to a point, if you've got to the point that you're in through grit, determination, and then the bloody mindedness that you can make it, there will be a point where actually you need to shift gears, and that actually I want you to take this saying and run with it. It is not mine, it's from the Navy SEALs. As slow as smooth and smooth as fast. Most of the people, especially I've operated in the health and performance space for 17 years. I've also operated in the leadership space for 7 now. I've seen so many people crash and burn because they're thinking speed is the only metric of success. But what today I'm going to go over is actually show you that there are two different ways of actually becoming what you said that you would, and also there's actually some science behind why it feels hard and heavy, and actually if it's feeling hard and heavy, how to unlock that. So one thing that I feel is going on currently in the world of business as a business owner in any realm at the moment is actually a feeling of being on purpose and mission, and this is actually down to symptoms and not causes. What I mean by that, if you're running a team and you've an example, this is from a book from John Whitmore, talks around Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is, if everybody doesn't know what Maslow's hierarchy of needs is, it's what keeps a person motivated and in the game in relation to what they're doing. Different stages. You got psychological needs. You've got safety needs, which is like security and you having a house. You've got belonging, with intimate relationship. Then you've got esteem, which is prestige and feeling accomplished. And then you've actually got self-actualization, which is talking around potential and fulfilling your purpose. There's science showing now that people that are sort of millennials or people that are in the late 90s are now putting that self-actualization piece first in the middle. Rather than being at the top and being the last part of the sort of the motivational pyramid, that's actually in the middle. So what they need to know is they need to have direction, they need to have mission. They also need to actually feel like they have purpose within whatever life or whatever spectrum, professionally, personally, or even sometimes physically too. They need to feel that they're on a journey. Now, if you are stuck, sometimes what this feels is that people are getting it twisted and they're searching for self-actualization at the wrong time. What I mean by that, if you're growing and you're an example, if you're growing a business, if you're bootstrapping a business, and I've got some people who are going to be doing podcasts with current and previous clients of mine who I know that have bootstrapped businesses to over multiple 7 figures. The key denominator to them is that it's all been hard work. It's all been hard graft. It's been a lot of sacrifice, and it's pushed them to their emotional limit from both a personal standpoint and from a professional standpoint. The thought process that this is supposed to be easy, that's something that needs to be diminished, because we all know that actually behind closed doors, I've never met anybody operating at any form of successful level that hasn't had hard times or hard moments or times where their character's been tested. So the assumption that you are in a position where you're going to suddenly find the cheat code and you're going to unlock it. It's not like Grand Theft Auto or GTA or Call of Duty where you've got a cheat code and you can run around and be invincible. I feel that what we're doing right now is we're in a position where most people are misaligned with what they're doing. Most people don't understand what drives them, and most people don't think they've got a career problem or a physical problem where actually they've got a personal problem. What I'm going to do in a minute is I'm going to go through understanding what that means, because if you are listening to this and you're currently feeling overwhelmed, burnout, frustration, procrastination, lack of drive and motivation, you're finding everything's overcomplicated, whatever actions you're taking aren't working, you feel like you're banging your head against a brick door, and more to the point, you're struggling to see where you're supposed to be heading or even have any form of direction or clarity, this usually stems from not actually having any form of pathway in place or understanding of the principles needed for you to develop that next part of that sphere. So throughout this podcast, those that know, I operate in the leadership high performance space, and what I always talk around is human optimization. So setting your standards, your personal standards, you as a person way before you as a professional. So we're going to be going through those three things and some common themes that I've found across this. If you are finding your current journey hard and heavy and you actually want it to be more smooth, more from an understanding of, you know, that you're on the right trajectory, this will be for you. So your personal standards aimed at your physical performance and well-being. Most people who I meet, who I operate with, and I assume most people that will be listening to this, they're between the ages of 30 and 50. They've probably operated in a high level of business for quite a long time, usually a previous athlete, and have got some sort of athletic endeavor, whether it's at university, international level, all the way through to being a professional, an ex-professional. If you're in that category, if you're finding that you're struggling with physical niggles, i.e. you're getting injured, or you're struggling to actually complete sessions, with the motivation and drive to actually show up and have intent with your sessions and push yourself, or more so, not even having the motivation to go at all and hiding away and standing behind the fact that you've got a busy job, this is a huge problem to realize. That actually what most people don't see is that the bell curve of performance and age at the same time. What I mean by that is when you're younger, when the ages of 18 to 25, you can absolutely send it 365. You can push yourself to your physical limit, and you know full well that if you treat yourself with respect, eat like an adult, and push yourself in the gym, you're going to see huge amounts of results. You're going to be athletic, and more so, you're going to dominate. Vice versa, what most people do, and at the assumption of, is if you are leading a team of a 40-man team or 40-woman and man team, and you are in a position where you know that you've got a lot of pressure on you and you've got multiple decisions to make. You might have kids at home. Your nutrition's all over the shop because you're traveling. You've got all these extenuating circumstances. The assumption of understanding of this David Goggins beast mode rubbish, that I see all the time, the association with that as a lack of discipline is your problem, because it's actually not a lack of discipline, it's a lack of planning. Most 99% of people who I work with have got a planning issue, not a physiological issue, i.e. they're not following a structured training program. They haven't planned their gym into their diary before anything else. They haven't fitted their physical and emotional well-being around their family and around who they are, what they do, why they do it. But they disassociate the common foundations of health and performance with metrics that work alongside a crazy schedule, where actually, if you understand the game, you understand the principles underneath it, you have an opportunity to utilize it. Example, most CEOs and executives that I work with, or C-suite individuals who are operating at mad levels, have all got nutrition locked in, not because they're cooking their dinner at 12 p.m. at night, because they've got a meal prep company. 99% of professionals that I work with, their first task of a Sunday, whenever they're planning their week, is to put in their time for their training, their time for their white space for themselves, and also their time to lock in that they have other jobs or other things they want to accomplish. Why? Because if the person is served first, their physiological needs are served first, their training and their nutrition and everything else is locked in, what happens then is they have an upstream effect of being able to make better decisions, be in a happier place, be able to give themselves more to their team and their spouse and their family, and also have bandwidth to be able to deal with pressure. Most people who lose their physical standards are not operating at 100 miles an hour. You'll feel like you're driving your car with a handbrake on. If you wake up and you've got no energy, you're lacking drive and motivation. Fellas, if you're not waking up with a lob on, your testosterone's low because you're stressing, you're not looking after yourself. Ladies, if you're losing your period, your hair's starting to fall out, you're emotional, you've got not anger issues, but you're temperamental, and you can't seem to get a grip of your emotions during high pressure scenarios. Again, speaking of C-suite individuals who I've worked with, most of it is because they're physiologically and their physical and their health are not looked after first. They haven't looked at the minimum effective dose needed, and they haven't used a sliding scale. High performance from a physiological and emotional and even vocational standpoint is a dimmer switch, not a light switch. If you are not training, eating like an adult, optimizing your sleep, and actually having some form of fun in your life, you will struggle. I guarantee, and everything will feel worse when you're not in that position. So the association with that your training has to be full send all the time, that's also a problem. The older you get, the more you're more like a classic car. When you're a classic car, what happens is you take it into the garage and you polish it, you make sure the engine works and you use it and you put it away. You know full well there are times and a place for you to rev the fuck out of it, excuse my French, but there are also times not to. And what most people I see, especially in the latter years of their athletic career, whether they're sort of between the 50, 55 mark, whether they're doing an Ironman or whatever, they think full send all the time. I promise you that'll be a road to nowhere, and that'll be a road for you to be going in and having whatever surgery or anything like that. So just for people to have a caveat, if you're feeling like from a physical standpoint you're not in a place that you want to be, and every time that you train you feel like you haven't got the zhuzh, you haven't got the drive, and you haven't got the intent around it, it's because one, you're not doing something you enjoy, two, you don't understand why you're doing it, and three, your athletic performance is an adaptive and specific endeavor that should be undulated throughout the year. You should have times where if you are not traveling and you've got 6 weeks, there is no reason why you can't drop the hammer and get after it. I've got a customer of mine who's been away for a month and he's had 13 red-eye flights, traveling the world from literally Singapore, Australia, America, back to Singapore, back to America, back to Singapore. The expectation that I'm going to push him to his limit is futile. But it doesn't mean that we take away what he's doing. What we do is we think about actually that push and pull. What are the mechanisms of recovery? How can we optimize his plan? How can we keep him from a health standpoint in a place where we know that he's not losing his gains, so to speak, and keep him in the arena so that when he is actually under pressure and he's meeting clients and doing what he's got to do, he can deliver. So if your standards are slipping from a personal standpoint and you're starting to insert whatever, I'm currently filming this and recording this the beginning of December. The association with December is it's a month to write off. Those who are professional, those who resonate with an elite message, and those that resonate with the actual high performance know that is absolute bullshit. You are in a position where your training is now is about stabilization. It's about utilizing, having more food and enjoying yourself, but also getting more output and training hard, because that gives you the keys to your car to drive, rather than falling off the bandwagon, going to social events, being a weapon, staying away from your training and realizing why you're upset and you're finding it tough. That is very, very, very normal for those that are leading other people, is because you believe that you have to be all in and you're all out. And again, we're going to go through a whole podcast about being all in and all out. I'm not an advocate of being all in and all out unless it is at all costs. The only time where I would tell you that I feel that is massively applicable is if you're going for sport, or you are trying, your only thing that matters to you is your business. I've only worked with, I think, 2 individuals who it has been at all costs. One of them plays for Saracens right now, and he didn't lose relationships because of it, but he was all in, and he went from about to leave rugby to Harry Wilson. Shout out to you, mate. Like, he went absolutely all in and believed in himself and made it, but because he went all in. Vice versa, if you're doing that in business, the arena that you're gonna struggle with, because life's about balance. If anybody wants to learn more around sort of personal development and how you operate, Dr. John DeMartini, I've done a lot of work inside his breakthrough experience and also reading his stuff. Value Principles is amazing for you to learn more about you. You'll understand the 7 spheres of life have all got sliding scales of balance. If you push one of those scales to the extreme, another one will fall over. You push your business to the limit, you'll lose your relationships. You push your physical health to the levels of extremes, you're going to lose your business because of the amount of time it takes for you to do that, etc. So you have to understand those trade-offs. Next piece of the puzzle we're going to be talking about is the person. Now, when it comes down to personal development, I have a huge gripe with the personal development industry. Reason being is because most personal development courses that people look at, or books and all this other shit, are all around frameworks that aren't applicable in real life. They don't look at the person itself, and they don't talk about the experiences they've had. There are some, don't get me wrong, there are some people in the game that I feel are absolutely dominating from that perspective. We've got Kira from Holistic High Performance. I went to her event not long ago. She's someone who I've used for personal development and I've massively valued, because she puts it through a performance lens, and it's actually how to make you better across all realms, not some I don't know, whatever manifestation framework that you don't even fucking understand. Excuse my French. It's actually how do you operate at a higher frequency. You'll understand this through the rest of this podcast as I talk about frequencies and energy. And if you are finding life hard and heavy at the moment, and you're finding that you're struggling to lead yourself in a direction that you know is going to win, how you are chasing a different level of frequency. whatever level, the higher the mountain, the thinner the air. The higher the mountain, the less people are up there too. And you know that as you start to grow, mistakes count way more. If you're starting from the bottom, you can mess around and you can get things wrong. If you're leading from the top, everything the way that you execute from all three of those spheres matters more. So what I've found through personal development and from me getting personally coached is when you are in business, you are thinking that business is just about how much business you can tolerate. You'll get to but the way that you know that you've got a personal development issue is that you just don't, you're either bored, you're frustrated, you've had enough, you've lost drive and motivation, and you don't feel like you're on a mission. You've lost direction. If you've lost direction, what that usually means is you're not aligned with your values. If you don't know what your values are not things just saying flippant emotional words like relentless and hardworking and this kind of shit. Values are actually what and how you do it. I value connection. I value adventure, and I value exploration. The reason why I use those is because they're all people driven. I value exploration and adventure because that encompasses my family. I value training because that allows me to have adventure and explore. And also connection. I value people. It's a human need, and what we're going to be doing over later podcast is talking about stress physiology. Most people who are stressed out lack one thing, and that's social connection. They lack connection with the process. They've lost the connection with themselves, and also they don't realize that actually it's a human need, and it's a stress reflex of the body. That if you're not getting social connection, biochemically you're going to struggle in relation to producing things like oxytocin and that kind of thing. So we'll be going through that, but that's very science hard and heavy. And in later podcasts, I'm actually going to get some specialists in on that because I feel that's massively applicable. But another piece of that puzzle when it comes down to the person is understand what drives you. As an athlete, I was Rage Against the Machine. If anybody else resonates with an underdog, I hear you. But the issue is if you keep calling yourself an underdog, you'll always be an underdog. And it always means that you're going to be fighting uphill. Where actually, if you realize that underdog is actually a cycle of behavior, and it stems from inadequacy when you're younger, and the proof that I have to prove everybody wrong, and I have to make sure that I can prove myself that I can do it, and all this other rubbish. Where actually, understanding what drives you, if you understand what that is, I've got a high achievements complex. I want to be part of somebody's journey, or I want to be on a mission, and I want to make sure that I win. Win doesn't mean against other people at all costs. Win means that I'm successful and I reach the top of the mountain. I'm also very, very aware, if anybody wants to look into a process called authentic or intelligence, it'll give you a score. My number one drive is hard work. So if anyone comes to me and asks me to hustle, no problem. But if you name somebody you admire as an entrepreneur, and what's the one thing that they have more of than anything else? And that's time. Because entrepreneurialism is at a different frequency. Leadership is at a different frequency. Leading a team, being a captain of the ship, whatever you're doing, is operating from a different place than what underdog syndrome is. Now, don't get me wrong, it can get you very far. It can get you to the top of the tree. I've seen it before. But what it does is, it'll feel like you've got a thorn in your shoe. What it'll feel like is you'll go off the rails at things that you don't understand why. It will also feel like you get to a point where you plateau and you take the foot off the gas because you believe that you only value having pressure behind you to push you to do something. Where when you want to operate at a higher frequency, when you want to be the leader, that you said you would, and for you to be a business owner, a professional, whatever we want to call this, you have to become something different when you're operating at a higher altitude. If you're climbing Everest, the higher you climb, the more kit you need. The different types of oxygen, different types of I'll be getting a friend of mine, Simon Ferrier-May, shout out to you, brother. You don't even know it yet, but you're definitely coming on. He's a friend of mine who was when I was a kid, and he's climbing mountains currently at the moment in the Himalayas, and his Instagram is mental. But if you look at the kit he's wearing, he starts off wearing what I'm wearing now, and then he ends up wearing a massive suit and oxygen, all this other stuff. Same thing when it comes down to business. Same thing when it comes down to personal development. Same thing when it comes down to elite level performance. If you are going to go in and be an elite, I've working in professional sport before, the margin for error is so slim. Elite level outcomes take elite level processes. So the higher you climb, the different frequency you have to operate from. Because most people associate that none of this should be hard. It should not be hard all the time. But if you're looking at it from a personal development, personal standpoint, If we look at flow state, if anybody's looked into Stephen Kotler's work and check Mihai, I can't pronounce the second name. The guys are the first man who built the frameworks around flow state, understanding that the key to flow state and operating in those focused amount of brainwaves possible stems from being on the borderline of anxiety and excitement. So for you to grow and understand that you do have to be in a hard position and pushing yourself, because there's no pressure, no diamonds, is something that you'll hear a lot throughout my content. Because if you haven't got challenge, then you're not going to rise to it. You're not going to push yourself. You're not going to challenge yourself. You're not going to evolve. You're not going to extremity expands capacity. Shout out Mr. Joe Parrish for that one. My point being, if you're feeling like growth is hard and heavy right now, it's because it is. But it's only hard and heavy because you haven't got the ducks in a row about understanding more about yourself. If you are leading a team and you are looking to work with people, you cannot understand human behavior to a degree that is going to be putting people in a place to win, to have influence and buy-in, unless you have built influence and buy-in with yourself. And what I see too often is people that are going into this personal development space and having this association with stuff that is really willy-nilly, whatever, where actually personal development is self-led leadership. Self-led leadership means building buy-in with yourself. Self-led leadership is building focus with what actually makes you tick and how to make you win. I know full well that if I need deadlines for me to get stuff done. I also know that if I don't pencil out time, I will not make it for the stuff that matters to me, like my family. If I don't pencil in my training, I am an asshole, because I have an inner monster inside me that stems from being a fat kid that knows that training for me is high priority list for my values, but it's more high priority for me to get me on the right frequency to operate the right level. Understanding that your human optimization and peak performance are an infinite loop. Most people disassociate that. Most people think that you're trying to think your way into nirvana, think your way into the place you want to be from a personal development standpoint, where actually, if you got yourself in a healthier position, you did some exercise that you really enjoyed and with people that you liked, I guarantee most people who are listening to this wouldn't have that many personal development problems. So understanding that strength and conditioning and personal development go hand in hand to build the ultimate high performer, which, as I said, we're talking this from a leadership sphere. And lastly, when we're looking at it from a professional, as a professional, most people will talk to you about things like working from a place of scarcity. Again, I'm going to tell you something right now. If you're bootstrapping a business, if you're starting and you're whatever in the UK, 0 to 5K as a coach is something that's very common. If you're a business, if you're not even breaking even yet, you better get ready to attack absolutely everything and put the hard yards in, because there's only one way of getting into the game, and that is through hard graft. But as you address these causes, and as you address the evolutions that you'll go through from being reactive and trying your very best to and again, from a professional standpoint, you'll hear me a lot of the time talking around paying to play. I've had mentorship within my business for the last 7-8 years. I've literally, this year alone, I've spent £20,000 on mentorship to help me as a person and as a business owner. I've got people in my corner ready to be called upon. Reason why? I value speed. If you think you can develop the business that you want without getting mentored, that's like you being a fighter having no one in your camp for fight camp. Impossible. Boxers have people in there to protect them because they can't protect themselves. You've got people that are the same way to your parents. They're there to guide you and show you what to do, because if it goes wrong, what happens? You're the one that gets hurt. It's the same thing. If you associate high performance in the professional sphere as somewhere where you can't have somebody looking after you, you are putting the handbrake on in your car and you're driving uphill. You're going to go nowhere. Why I say that is because you can't see what you can't see, and you've never been there before. Now, again, something that I see a lot of the time when it comes down to professionalism is people talking around imposter syndrome and all this other stuff. That is fucking so normal. And if you haven't got imposter syndrome, you're not pushing hard enough. I'll give you something very personal right now. I'm on my 3rd podcast and I am putting my heart and soul into subjects that I absolutely love. But have I got nerves? Of course I am. I'm filming this real time. I'm doing this whilst my kid's out of the house, and I've got my dog who's desperate for me to go outside. I've got all sorts of other pressure on me. And what I want to do is provide nuggets of information for people that care about their performance and want to operate at a higher level. That 1% means I have to have the courage to lean in, even though I feel uncomfortable. If you're in that position where you associate that as a negative thing, you're not going to evolve, because the only way for you to get better at what you do is through exposure. The only way for you to get better is to know the direction you're going in and having aggressive patience. The only way for you to be in the professional place that you want to be is actually having somebody being objective about you and what you're doing. If you're leading a team and you've got no one giving you any feedback, how the fuck do you know that you're in a winning environment? I've seen so many companies or people that are operating in those companies flop because what they do is they associate their ego, and they think that because they can shout the loudest, they're going to be the best. Where actually the art of human communication and buy-in and influence all stems from a human-first leadership approach. It all stems from you actually understanding people, having empathy, having emotional intelligence, be able to read the room, listening more than you speak. All these big things that I see so many leaders not doing. They're unable to regulate themselves in tough situations. They either use emotions to fight everything, or what they do is they cower and they're a pussy because they haven't got the courage to stand up for what they believe in. Being on a mission and telling people what you're going to do and doing it for the right reasons is one of the most powerful forms of energy you'll have out there. I always say this about anything, is if you go to a coffee shop and you talk to a barista who actually cares about coffee, he'll talk to you for 25 minutes about how much he's weighed this and what washing process he's had and all this kind of stuff. But passion breeds energy. If you're a leader and you've got passion for what you do, because you understand why you do it, people are going to buy in. If you are sat there looking for the cheat code of performance and looking to make more money, have more impact, create more freedom and more leverage for your life, whatever it is, and you're doing it from a place of robotness and I'm not even sure if that's a word, of being this AI into everything, I promise you'll fail. Why? Because humans need connection. The best leaders I've ever worked with fight for the man underneath them. They bring them up to their standard. They show them what the fucking air's like where they're walking around and go, you can get there too. Most leaderships that I encounter when I start with them, they have an unsure complex about who they are and why they do it. And as soon as they can tell a story, as soon as they can build buy-in, because of the superpowers of the keys to the car of this is understanding your voids, because your voids fill your values. If you, me, underdog syndrome, I was a fat kid. I wanted to be socially accepted. I did everything I possibly could to get into the shape of my life, and then I wanted to play professional rugby, and I was told every single fucking time that I wasn't good enough. Too small, not big enough, not fast enough, not skillful enough, shit in the line out, whatever. I was shit in the line out, even though because I'm 5 foot sausage. But my point, the rage against the machine as an athlete that got me to a professional standard was from pure violence and hatred for those that doubted me. If I took that into business, I knew I was going to lose, because being an emotional wreck means I'm reactive. I take things personally. Gordon Ramsay had a wicked quote the other day on the High Performance podcast I heard ages ago, which is around, are you taking this personally or professionally? How many of you are sat there after you get some feedback from someone who are taking it personally, and it's feedback about your work or feedback about something that you're doing professionally? You take that shit home, and then what? You're an asshole to your missus or an asshole to your husband. It's because if you don't understand the person first, if you're not self-aware, if you can't regulate yourself and you can't understand the frames that you're seeing from a communication standpoint, that is why you're going to struggle. That's why you're not going to win. And that's why you're stood here in the position of, if you're feeling that it's hard and heavy, it's because you don't know enough about you. People talk about that going through the personal development sphere is a wushu position if you're a professional. For me, I'll tell you exactly the opposite. If you understand more about your biology, your physiology, the things that make your body and your mind tick, and more about you as a person, I guarantee all this shit starts to get better. Because people associate that leadership and that the position that you're in as a leader is just from grunt. And like I said, I'm a big advocate of hard work. But what I want to get across here, I think sometimes what I did from the title, hard graft is inevitable. I thrive in hard work. Someone come and train me at my house, and we'll do a hard work. I live and breathe it. Why? Because I like being in the fire. But if you think, a terminology for you to maybe take away, if your journey can either feel like a cow or it can feel like a lion. You can either be like a cow who's just sitting there in second gear, chewing the cud all day, not moving very fast, not doing very much, and is just seeing the world go by. Or you could be like a lion that hunts It's full, it sleeps, it rests, it goes again. And that's like your actions. If you're not having the conviction to get shit done and getting it done and doing it when you're supposed to be doing it and not getting stuck with distractions and not listening to the rest of the horse rubbish that's on social media, that's where the cream rises to the top. So to recap, right now, especially heading into 2025, most people who are in the professional space, leading other people or leading teams or operating in massive companies, the one thing that most people underneath them lack is direction. What most people lack is that pull motivation of why they're doing it. Are they part of the mission? But before that, when we look at your journey, if it's feeling hard and heavy right now and it's frustrating, it's life telling you that your next move is about to happen. But your next move is an active process. If you're not active in that journey, if you're not active with you, if you're not active with what's to come, if you're not putting your performance first and you're not elevating and keeping your personal standards to a level that are going to help you operate at a higher frequency, I promise you're never, ever, ever going to unlock that next level piece of potential that every single person that will listen to this has. I guarantee you have it, because self-belief is infectious. And as a leader, if you have got self-belief and if you believe that much in somebody else and believe that much in yourself, the only thing you can do is win. It's only a matter of time. Anyway, I digress. I hope we're well. Thank you very much for the podcast. I'd love you to, if I hit any of those points hit home and then you felt that they hit a message, I'd love to know. I'd love to talk. This whole podcast is around connection, around meeting like-minded people. Like I've said before, it's not there for the normal person. It is there for those who want to find their edge, find the next 1% for their performance. If you could share it with friends who you feel that it could be applicable to, I want to grow this to the moon and back. So anyway, I digress. Attack Monday, and I'll catch you soon.